Hello, and welcome to Armenian Enough, a podcast about life and identity in the diaspora, with your host, Lara Vanian-Green.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Armenian Enough. Every once in a while, I come across an Armenian person doing something really outside the box, and I think to myself, how did I not know about them? Today's guest is definitely one of those people. Yasmin is a Syrian-Armenian illustrator and model currently based in New York and Mexico. They were born in the former Soviet Union from Muslim and Christian parents. I've been dying to interview somebody with this background. You have no idea. Yasmin's work reflects the heavy influence of Western pop culture juxtaposed with elements of their traditional upbringing. In 2019, Yasmin was a cast member of MTV's Real World Atlanta, where they provided deeper insight into their work as both an activist and an artist. In their spare time, Yasmin enjoys designing tarot cards and growing plants in their kitchen. That is so cute. They are joining us today from Playa del Carmen, Mexico. Welcome to the show, Yasmin, Almokhamad, Sarkisian.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's such a pleasure. I'm so glad that we finally connected.
Yes, me too.
So we were just trying to figure out before we started recording where I first saw you. And I think I got to give a little shout out to hagop.ig.
Yes, we love you.
And I saw you featured in one of his stories. And I was like, no way, this person is Armenian? Get out. I need to know more. And then I contacted you and you were so sweet.
Thank God for Instagram, honestly.
Truly. As evil as the Facebook empire is,
right?
There are some good things that come out of it. Let's start with a little bit about your background and the role that Armenian culture played in your upbringing. Like, where did you come from? Where are your parents from? How did that whole thing start?
Yeah, so I came to the United States when I was 3 or 4 years old. I came with my mom, who's Armenian, her mother and father, and then my dad, who was Syrian. And we were supposed to end up in New York, but like at the airport, they're like, just kidding, you're going to Seattle, Washington. So I was raised in Seattle, and, you know, my parents were like, Armenian church was the one who was sponsoring them. And so they like got us, like they set us up. And they, you know, got us an apartment and government assistance and all the thingies. And I was basically raised by my grandmother and grandfather while my parents were like going to college and working under the table at laundromats and all these places for very little money. And it's actually crazy because my mom like has a PhD in music. She's a pianist. And my father is a mathematician and studied geography. But, you know, they came to America and then they had to do things they didn't really like to do. But anyways, so that all that to be said, I was raised by my grandparents. So my upbringing was pretty traditional, but it was hard. And I guess I just will say like different because I was raised around a bunch of like American things all the time. And so it was like a difficult and confusing balance to maintain. There was no balance, essentially.
Do you have siblings?
Yeah, I have a younger brother. He is 5 years younger than me. His name is Samir, and he is very successful. I am so proud of him.
Aw, that's really sweet.
Yeah.
So was his experience very different and since he was born here and he didn't have that experience of traveling over? Or did you guys kind of have a similar upbringing, similar experience?
No, his experience was very different because he was also raised by my grandparents, but he ended up getting to live with my grandparents part of his, like, as he was a teenager. And also, like, it was after my parents got divorced. But I was, like, growing up while my parents were trying to figure out being in the US and being happy or sad. Yeah.
So there's a lot there, but I'm just trying to parse out the Armenian, like, traditional stuff. Did your grandparents like cook? Did they speak Armenian? Did you have like Armenian music playing? Like, what elements of the culture did you?
Well, My grandparents, they speak Armenian and I don't know, Azerbaijan and Russian, but they didn't speak Armenian to me. Armenian was my first language, but I forget it when we came to America because I actually went to a Russian preschool, so I only spoke Russian and English.
Oh.
Yeah. So I don't speak Armenian. And also because my dad, he only spoke Russian. And he was, the not Armenian person in the family. But my grandparents always cooked Armenian food. I mean, I love Armenian breakfast. And, we made a community of other refugees that came around the same time we did. And they're basically all my aunts and uncles and cousins to this day. And we would have like weekly parties, play Armenian music, and play ABBA and Boney M and cook Armenian food. And then my mom would play the piano and play sad, depressing Russian songs while everyone was drunk singing around the piano. It was so much fun. Oh my God.
That really paints a vivid picture.
Yes. And we would go to Armenian church, but as I got older, I really stopped feeling comfortable in those spaces because in the Armenian community, everyone was very Armenian. Everyone drove a black Mercedes, had a town car, had a Chanel purse, all these things. And I was a little more like punk. And they were like, my kid can't be friends with your kid anymore. But still, like in my grandparents' home, everything is very Armenian, talking about Armenia all the time, playing television, Russian TV, Armenian TV, the news, the performances, telling all the stories over and over and over again. So, yeah, I mean, everything is very Armenian except I can't speak it.
So where did your dad's influence come in? Because I know that you were raised in a household where your father's Muslim and your mom's Christian. How did that play into it?
Yeah, that was pretty hard, I think, for my dad. Initially, because Islam is also very cultural. And so he would do and teach us a lot, me and my brother, teach us a lot of things that were also just like cultural things from Islam. And also my dad would try to take us to mosque, but my mom was not having it. But, he would play Arabic music all the time at home. He would play different Muslim prayers. He would play all these different movies. And, he would also always cook like Arabic food all the time. And honestly, more than anything that I relate to Islam is the rules that my father would try to implement me as a girl growing up, honestly.
What were those?
Very much more like conservative things. I didn't grow up also eating pork at all. My dad wouldn't let us have alcohol in the house. Crazy though, because it was like, so how it was is because my father was the only not Armenian person in our friend group, in our family's friend group. So like he would go through phases where like I think he would feel like missing his culture and his people, and he would throw out all the alcohol. My mom would try to have like bazaar or whatever in the house, and he would throw it all out. And then for like 1 year he would be like, okay, we can drink wine, and that's when we would have family parties. And then when he would meet more Muslim people again and he would start going to mosque a lot more, then he would be more like dived into his faith and then be like, hey, we have to make our household more aligned with the faith. But like it was a very hard balance to maintain for both of my parents, because I think what happened was my mom also came to America, and going from like being a more conservative Christian Armenian woman, she then became like sucked into more like American culture. And I mean, it's like a playground here in the US. It was always like a constant battle back and forth. So it was really interesting to watch all of these things being maintained. And growing up, I think what happened for me was I felt a little pushed out of Armenian community the older I got, but also the older I got, the more welcoming actually like people with Muslim faith, especially after September 11th, they would, we became more of a closer community, and people would draw me in and pull me in. You get so excited when you meet each other. And there's also not a lot of Armenian people in places. It's hard to spot each other. So because Islam is like a faith, so many people from so many different countries and cultures can practice that. And so as the older I got, the more I would meet Muslim people and the less Armenian people I would see.
Interesting. Tell me, I remember reading something about the impact of 9/11 on your particular household. Do you want to tell me what happened after 9/11?
It was really shitty, first of all, because, okay, so there was a lot before 9/11, even there was so much propaganda around like terrorism and Muslim people and Arabs. And I remember at one time my mom prepared me and my brother, and she was like, if your dad takes you to the airport, grab someone immediately, because she thought my father was going to kidnap us. And this was like right before 9/11. And then 9/11 happened, and my father got fired from his job. Like, first, the week after 9/11 happened, they investigated my father. He was a welding engineer, and they investigated him. And the week after that, they fired him. But he had just gotten promoted. So it was really weird. And also at the time, he was like trying to send money back to his family and dealing with a gambling addiction. And it was a lot. And then I remember being in my 6th grade class, and there was a boy who was Pakistani, and all the kids in the class were pointing at him and yelling, "You're a terrorist, your family did 9/11." And I got so mad, and I stood up on the table and I was like, "You don't know him, you're mean," or something.
Oh my
Leave
God.
him alone. And it was so interesting because actually I don't think his family was Muslim. And also I was really pissed because I was like, my parent is Muslim, so you guys are stupid. You guys don't know what you're talking about.
I think we forget, what it was like for people then. I mean, not that it's super different now, but, the focus changes, different enemies, right?
Exactly.
So in the last few years, it's been a lot of focus on Asians because of COVID and our last racist president. But what was I going to say? Oh, so this happened in Washington, in Seattle or close?
This was the suburbs of Seattle, Washington. It's a place called Kirkland. It's actually like a pretty wealthy, very white place. We were not wealthy, but that's where the Section 8 housing that they put us in was there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
It is very white. My uncle, when he lived in America, he lived in Washington. And he lived in Everett, which is also a suburb of Seattle.
Yes. And Everett is even worse because it's like very white, but there's also like white trash and then rich white people also. So it's like confusing.
It's a mix.
Scary. Yeah.
Like, it sounds like your parents weren't coercive with respect to religion. Like, did they just expect to both teach you their religious beliefs and then you and your brother would just choose? Or how is that presented to you?
No, not at all. I think that also, growing up, we would go to like Armenian Bible study. And for a while, I kind of ended up like diving deep into that, but by myself into Christianity and by myself into many other faiths. Because actually, when I was young, I was mostly interested in like Wicca and Buddhism. And so like I took it upon myself to study and learn about all different kinds of religions because, again, I felt very not welcome in either of my family's faith-based things. And I didn't fit into those things. They didn't feel aligned with me. So my dad always was like, when your father is Muslim, you are Muslim. And I was like, okay, like, sure. And then my mom was like, we're Armenian, so we're Orthodox Christian. We're the very first Christians, so you're Christian. And I was like, okay. So I was like, okay, you guys are tripping because both of you are also like a hot mess. And I don't know what you guys are trying to do, talking about religion and also being a mess. This is confusing. All these religious things are not a savior for any of us. So I just was like, I relate to Buddhism because my grandfather, he would take me to the library every single day when I was in elementary school, Monday through Friday. I would read like 2 books a week, no matter how old I was. I was just reading. And I would always find books on like Taoism and Buddhism. And when I would bring home books from Wicca, my grandma would try to like throw them away. And I'd be like, no, we have to pay for that book at the library. And she was like, this is sin. You're going to go to hell.
Wow, look at you, rebel from the start.
Yes.
My mom, my parents were like very barely Christian. Like they would go to church sometimes, but they would always go and they would criticize different things about the church, about the priests, about biblical passages. So I grew up with a very critical attitude toward it, which I really appreciate. I really appreciate that my parents did that. And my mom was into supernatural and occult stuff
Oh my
since,
God,
I don't know,
cool.
since she was into her 20s in 1950 Argentina.
Holy shit.
So yeah. So I think I joined a coven when I was 16, and like I don't remember the age. I remember joining the coven.
Yeah.
It was behind this little store in West Hollywood that doesn't exist anymore.
Oh my God. That makes sense about the goth club then.
Yes, since I was a kid, my mom would try to like play psychic games with me of like guessing what number she was thinking of or color. And, we had experiences with spirits and seances. And so all that stuff is like a huge part of my background. So I'm just relating to you because you were talking and I was just nodding like, yes, the Buddhist stuff, yes, to this, and studying all religions, you see so many similarities and all the beauty in every religion and the crap in every religion.
Totally. Yeah.
So pardon me if you're listening and you're religious. It's not personal.
No, not personal, because I also believe that everyone's religion is true for them.
Right.
And what you believe, that is your truth. And it doesn't negate anyone else's truth.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So growing up, what messages did you receive? I mean, obviously very different ones about religion, but what messages did you receive about gender and gender roles and things like that? Like, how did you grow up?
Yeah. So my mom always would try to push like being feminine and pretty, and you gotta be a girl, and you got to find a husband, things like this onto me a lot. And there was just a lot of messages around like, girls are like this. And I was like, first of all, I was like a fat kid. So in my family, there was a lot of criticism around that. But also at school and around my peer groups, there was also a lot of commentary around how I presented. But also, I was like very messy and a tomboy. And I would like play in the dirt and climb trees and like do whatever I wanted, and like I just did anything I wanted, and everyone would be like, that's girls don't do that, close your legs, put your feet on the ground when you're sitting or whatever. And I was like, you can't tell me what to do, I'm just sitting, or shit like that all the time. So I got a lot of messages about like what the definition of femininity looked like, and like when I grow up, what the expectation was around that. But the problem was like, especially I wasn't conventionally attractive, so I never related to what people said femininity was, because I was really hairy. My mom started waxing my arms and my face when I was 8 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And like, my aunt, she worked at a salon. And so like, I'm like a pro waxer.
But that's really painful. I mean, it's painful for adults. I can't imagine how painful it is at 8 years old.
Yeah, it sucks. It really did. Because now that I'm older, I'm like, I can't even think that kids at school used to call me Sasquatch. And then, so it was like hard. I was getting it at home and at school. So a lot of, again, basically the ideas I got around like the person I was and the person I was born as was not good enough for what everyone wanted me to be like. And a lot of like, I'm very loud and I talk and I don't think before I speak. And I would always get in trouble because I would ask a lot of questions, and you're a girl, don't ask questions. This is this way because it is this way, and shut up and sit down and mind your business. And I'm very curious and I wanted to know why, how, because I'm actually really, really smart because I always really want to know how every single thing works for it to make sense to me.
I think curiosity is one of the most important qualities in humans.
Yeah, it is, because there's so much information and knowledge, and everything is constantly changing in the world. I mean, it's really important for us, and it's really important to facilitate a child who is growing up in the world to let them be curious.
I'm relating to so much of what you said. I was also a chubby kid who was like chased around the playground, and people called me fatso and chased me. And Yeah, it was really painful. And my mom was so beautiful and petite that it was always like I felt so less than compared to her.
Mhm.
I was like chubby, had a round face, I had a really big nose, and of course she'd had like a, rhinoplasty and stuff. She had this like cute little nose, and she was little 5 foot tall beauty. And I felt really clumsy and next to her. And I was also a really hairy kid. And with my dad being from Syria, like
Oh, yeah.
he was against any kind of shaving or anything like that for when I was a kid. But I remember so distinctly being 10 years old and being invited to this pool party from one of my classmates at Armenian school. And my mom and dad got into a big fight because my mom was like, we need to shave her legs. Like, you can't send her like this. And I wanted to, when you're a kid, you want to do anything that's like makes you seem older. And, but like, I needed it. I mean, if you're going by regular hair standards, which is a whole nother thing. I used to shave my legs and they would get a 5 o'clock shadow. Yeah. And I was like, this sucks. And why do I have to shave? I hated it.
And it hurt and it would burn. And like also when you're hairy and you're learning all the different ways of removing your body hair, there's a lot of mistakes you make.
Yes, there are. That's a very elegant way of putting bloody scratches and tearing out your skin with wax that's too hot.
Exactly.
But I went a different way. I mean, I was so shamed for all that stuff that I had to wait a little while. But as soon as laser hair removal was available, I was like, get rid of all of it. Yeah. I never want to shave again.
Totally.
And you made sort of a different decision, although I think you shave when you feel like it, because I read somewhere that you like shave designs into your hair.
I play around with like body hair removal for sure, because my hair on my body everywhere grows so fast. Like, it's insane. Like the 5 o'clock shadow thing, 100% yes. I will shave my head skin bald and I will have hair growing out of the follicles the next day. Like, insane. But yeah, I mean, I prefer to grow all of my body hair out. It has been a decision I made in maybe the last 4 or 5 years. It started, like with my armpits, and then slowly, like, it would hurt to like wax my toes or something. So I started growing out my toe hair, and then like my arms, and one thing at a time. But now I try to grow all of my body hair. But because of modeling, sometimes I have to shave my legs or whatever, shave one of my arms or something. Because I work with a lot of like shaving companies because they like to show the removal of body hair. So,
interesting.
Yeah. So I'll have a lot of like weird, imbalanced, bald body parts.
Yeah. How did it feel like when you first decided, okay, I'm not going to shave my legs and I'm going to wear a pair of shorts or a skirt or whatever? How did it feel going out? Did it feel scary or did you feel confident like in the beginning?
It's kind of like a tattoo, I think. Like, you forget that it's like that. You don't notice till other people notice. And I would notice people like looking at me uncomfortably. But my favorite reaction is that men will find me attractive, but then they'll like notice like my body hair, like my really hairy legs, and then they're like, oh wait, and then they're confused that they're attracted to me because they're not sure what they should think. And I can tell by their facial expression. But the most affirming thing has been being with queer people, because I had an ex who was like, a woman who was like, I love your body hair. It's so beautiful. Please never remove it. And I was like, really? Thank you. Okay. Because before I would have creepy guys that would be like, I want to pay you to keep your arm hair or something. Yeah. And I was like, what the, okay. Like, you're creepy. But when it came to romantic relationships, it became more affirming. And that's what actually had let me be more comfortable with growing out all of my body hair. And also, you know what? I would like, it hurts. Like, I remember I want to wear a swimsuit and maybe I would only like wax my lower back. But then I'm like, damn, I got to wax my lower back, which means I got to shave my stomach. But then you're going to be able to tell the line between my stomach and my armpit and then my arm. So like, it just made me feel crazy. And I feel people actually don't, I think because the more I normalize it, the more normalized it is for those around me.
I really appreciate that because I'm all about people being able to express themselves however they want and have the choice to do it. It should be totally fine to not remove any hair from your body, and it should be totally fine to remove every hair you feel like removing from your body. It's just hair.
Absolutely. And I do also want to make this one point. I have a condition where I sweat profusely from my armpits specifically. So like in high school and as I got older, I could never wear like light colored t-shirts, no white button-ups. If I had a job, like if I worked at a bank or something, I could never wear a white button-up or even a blue one. I would sweat so much. And once I grew out my armpit hair, I stopped sweating that way. And that is a reason, one of the initial reasons why I kept my armpit hair, because I could start wearing clothing and not have like, I used to put pads for your period inside of my t-shirts. So it would soak up all the sweat. That's how hairy, or that's how sweaty I was. So I'm just like, let your body do what it's meant to do.
I love it. And I really love the confidence that it projects. And, you know, going back to you saying that an ex made you sort of see that differently and feel really comfortable and helped you to love yourself, I can absolutely relate to that. I have really large breasts, and my parents were always on me for getting a breast reduction. And it was just like weird. Because I think they didn't like that it made my body look out of proportion. Like my upper half was really big, and my lower half was, my mom said, like, look, she's normal from the waist down.
Oh my God.
Oh, Mom. Anyway, so I was like, I didn't want to do it, but I felt so much pressure as a teenager from my parents to get a reduction. And it wasn't until like one of my ex-girlfriends, actually the first woman that I was, my first love, who was like,
Wow.
oh my God, please. Like, you're amazing. Your body's amazing. Your soul is like, you don't have to touch anything. Please don't do this. It was through her that I began to see myself and my body differently, and through a very loving, you know, perspective and through loving eyes. So I definitely relate to that experience. And I think it's beautiful when someone else can show us how to love ourselves.
Totally. And I think it's really important to note that, like, it isn't it, and unfortunately because of how people are conditioned, but also really nice to feel supported and seen by another woman in that way.
Yeah.
I think that says a lot about, you know, like the beauty of queer relationships, but also like just support within one another. Because I feel like also a lot of men, even if they were with a woman or whatever, a person with huge breasts, for example, their approach and language around that would be very different, and the support around that would like come from a different place.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. It is different. Although I have also had men who have made me feel beautiful and or like desirable in a way that I never felt before. And I've really appreciated that. But yeah, sometimes that was a good example for a way that it's different, because it definitely is.
Yes.
So how did you come to discover your own sexuality?
I've always been like pretty weird and queer and gay, but like most of my life I dated boys. But I remember I don't know, you know, always did like weird gay things even as a kid growing up.
What does that mean? What are weird gay things?
It's like we were like 10 or 11 or something, and I was like, we're gonna hump the pillow and pretend it's Justin Timberlake, okay, together or something. And like literally, what are we doing? We're like, we don't know what we're doing. We just thought we're doing something. But as like, I always like wanted to do this with like my girlfriends. We're gonna do this. But my very first experience really around that was the only friend I was ever allowed to sleep over at their house. They were a Christian El Salvadorian family, and her dad moved to Seattle to be a pastor and start a church. Okay. And my family was like, yeah, they're Christian. You can stay there. They're great. They have a family, da, da, da. And I was like, cool. And then all of a sudden, me and that girl were like, had a crush on each other. But like, we didn't really say it. And I think we were like, I want to say 12 or 13. And she was like, okay, so like, I'm going to teach you something. And I was like, okay. And, you know, We like messed around a little. But also, now that I'm older, when I look back at a lot of my friendships and like the jealousy I had within my friendships with women, I realized it was like romantic jealousy and not like I had a crush on a lot of my friends growing up. Even like in high school, like a lot of my best friends have always been gay people. A lot of masculine presenting lesbians, and I think some of them are even trans now. Gay guys growing up, or I even was always the queer friend. And so, my mom would always ask, especially with my first best friend that was like very much a dyke in high school. My mom was like, "Are you gay or something?" And I was like, "No, mom, you don't even know. They're just my best friend," or whatever, like all these shit. Anyways, so many stories growing up. Now that I'm older, I'm just like, I barely even talk about it to my family. I'm like, this is how I am. I argue with my family because my mom and my aunt are like very homophobic to me. It's a lot of coming out all the time, over and over and over and over and over and over, because I think they still think it's a phase. But now that I'm like in the public eye a lot more, their friends and the church and many people in community gossip and talk about me and stuff. And so I think it makes them feel very uncomfortable and confused. Like it was kind of like a family secret or something before, but now it's like very public and I don't give a shit. I will talk about the dynamics within my family, especially if they're toxic. Those need to be held accountable. And also like this experience that I'm having, I think a lot of people within community also have this experience. So I definitely don't try to sweep it under the rug as they would like.
I can certainly relate to a lot of that too, even though, God, I feel so old compared to you and a lot of people. I'm not going to leave that part in. I'm going to edit that part out. But I remember when I was dating a woman, my mom, when I was 19 and had my first serious relationship, my mom was just like, listen, it's okay, but just don't tell anybody. I'm like, wow. Okay, a lot of mixed messages. But so I tried to comply with that. She just didn't want Armenians to know. So I'm like, fine.
Exactly.
But then I didn't, every time I'd go somewhere, Armenian people would be like, oh, boyfriends with me, whatever. Do you have a boyfriend? Do you have this? Do you have that? And I'd be like, nope, no boyfriend. And I said no boyfriend for so many years that then like rumors started going around that I was a lesbian. So it was like all the same. We came back to the same place. But yeah, I would think like parents today would be more accepting. I realize your parents weren't born here, but still. Sure. And your mom seems to have that like that artistic, passionate side of her. So I would think like should be a little bit more accepting, but doesn't sound like it.
Like she is and she's not though. That's the thing. It's something about like honestly living the longer in America and being on Facebook too much that has made her this like weird, because growing up my mom would go to the gay club with her friends and be like, Yasmin, the best club to go to is the gay club because then you can have fun and dress how you want and all the men leave you alone. Like, and my mom used to shop at drag queen stores. My mom didn't know they were drag queen stores. She just thought she was being very fabulous, wearing a bunch of fur and colorful things. But when I got older, I went to the same stores, and because my college was across from it, and I was like, this is a drag queen store. This is a kinky store, like, but I mean, the cultural reference points to those things are so different. And also, my mom is very artistic and she's very like superstitious, alien meditation crystals lady. So like a lot of people would think she is open-minded. She has a gay friends. I think she just doesn't want to have a gay child, but that I think she has a lot of internal work to do around that herself, because the message that I keep getting from my family on my mom's side, the Armenian side, is that I need to reproduce and I need to have kids and have a husband so I can have kids, because to keep our Armenian bloodline. Because I didn't really go to college. I have always I was in jail. I always been getting in trouble. Like I haven't been able to support myself honestly for a long time until like these past couple of years as I've gotten older and matured a lot. So I think my family has always been worried for me, and very many family members of mine that are women have ended up just marrying American men and living off of their money and being like, you just have to be a hot housewife, a hot exotic housewife. This is what we do. I think my family was very worried that I'm not going to be able to take care of myself because I was always getting in trouble. And for a while, I was a very much a sugar baby type of girl in my peak femme life, but so they thought, oh, Yasmin will just like find a rich man and then like have kids and be taken care of. But like, no, that feels miserable to me. But I want to be taken care of. Like, I do expect to be taken care of, but I also want to take care of somebody. And that's outside of gender. Like, I very much want to be and will be and am a successful person in my own life with my own expectations. But I think it's just honestly coming to America. I mean, our cultures have a lot of ridiculous and very like misogynistic and weird expectations, but also like coming to America actually makes it worse because I think it confuses a lot of those ideologies and people like conflate one thing with another.
You've talked a lot about what your mom expects from you, but what is your dad? Like, where does your dad stand on these issues?
Yeah, my dad has come a very long way because my dad moved to the Middle East about, I want to say, 7 or 8 years ago. So he's been living in Jordan and Qatar and all these places, and he's become more of a devout Muslim. Now he's a very devout Muslim, and he's married to a Syrian woman, and he's with his family and everything like that. And initially, I was like very nervous for that because I was like, ugh, he's going to be like more conservative or whatever. But the thing is, when I was growing up, especially when I was in high school, me and my father, our relationship fell apart when my parents got divorced. So my dad did a lot of soul searching. And I think that my father realized that he rather just have a good relationship with his child, especially when I was like in and out of jail and rehab type of stuff. My father realized the type of support that I needed was just to have a parent supporting me, like just to show love. So now my dad is very open. Surprisingly, I mean, only in the past few months, even, my father has acknowledged that I am queer or a lesbian, and he inquired about how I want to have kids. He FaceTimes with my partner. He got my partner and me matching rings, which is like so funny.
Wow, that is so sweet.
Of course, he would never tell his family, right? Ever. Like, he would never tell his family over there, which is okay. I don't want him to. I don't want them to know either. But to have that from my father is like, I never would have expected that in my life. And it's one of the most affirming and amazing, incredible things I could have ever experienced, truly.
That is really, really wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
How do you feel about having children in the future?
I want to have kids. I thought I didn't, but I want to have kids. It's just when you're two people with vaginas, it's a lot more expensive.
Yes, that's what I hear.
A lot more expensive, more planning. And right now I know like I am about to hit a peak of my career, like consistency. So that is what makes me nervous. I think that a lot of people have kids when they don't know what to do next in their lives. It's like another project for them. And I don't want to do that. And also because I'm seeing how like my parents' unresolved trauma has then inflicted trauma in me, I really want to make sure I take care of myself and am as whole as possible spiritually, emotionally, and mentally before I decide to do that. But yes, I do want kids. I just want to be really prepared whenever I make the decision.
Well, that sounds very, very healthy and extremely responsible. I mean, that is the ultimate thing, right? To whatever trauma or whatever, family issues, and I can't think of the word today. I'm not feeling particularly bright, but whatever it is, that environment that we grew up in, the things that were unhealthy or negative, our job is to not pass that along to the next generation.
Yes.
And I mean, I remember like I spent my 20s and half of my 30s in therapy because I remember telling my therapist, I want to have kids and I don't want to be like my parents, and especially my mom, but I don't want to be like my parents. And I have to say, I just do a humble brag right now, but yesterday I was talking to my dad, who is a great guy. He's very stingy with compliments. Like he hardly ever says anything really, really nice. But yesterday he said to me that I was an almost perfect mom and that I made him jealous that he didn't get to have a mom like me. And I was like,
God, did you cry?
I was just like, I felt like physically like the impact in my chest. And I kind of like took a breath and I had to like cover it up. And then when I got off the phone with him, I was like, oh my God, try and take a moment and take that in, what my dad said, because that's like rare.
That is incredible, especially because your dad is a man and he acknowledged that. That's so sweet.
Yes. And my mom is passed. So, you know, I don't hear that stuff from her. And she would have normally said something like, oh, you're a really good mom or whatever. But I don't hear that from her. I can't. So it was especially meaning to hear that from my dad. Meaningful.
I know that it's true too.
Thank you. So, like on a different tangent a little bit, what was it like to be on The Real World? Like, I have watched that show since 1992 when it first started.
Oh my God.
And I was like, when I found out that you were on The Real World, I was like, how have I not seen her? And then I found out that it was because it was on Facebook Live. So I didn't see that whole iteration of The Real World, but I did watch the clips and it looked awesome. How did that whole thing happen?
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. First of all, never thought I would. I thought if I'm going to be on a reality show, I'm going to be on like Bad Girls Club because yes, I tried out for that. Okay. But,
so you have to try out for it. Like, what is it like?
No. So, well, for a reality show, they scouted me for Real World, first of all. I was on an airplane. I was on a job flying to California. And when the plane landed, I checked my email. And my email was like, hey, I'm a casting director from blah, blah, blah. Can I please get your phone number? I would love to reach out to you. I have a project or something. And I was like, what? Is this a scam? And then like, I Googled that person and they were like a real person. So I sent them my phone number and I didn't answer when they called, but they did leave a voicemail and they were like, I want to talk to you. And I was like, this is still a scam. I really don't believe this thing. And then I called them back and I talked to them on the phone and they're like, hey, I really want to submit you for this show for Real World. And I was like, Real World? I thought that was over. And anyways, I went on with the process and I was like, this is stupid. Like, first of all, it was also when I first moved to New York. So I was modeling a lot and I was like, I don't want to be a reality person. Like, I am like, my modeling is going up right now. But, you know, then like the Real World people were like, hey, we're going to go in a different direction. And I was like, thank God, because I really didn't even want to do it. And then like a month later, they're like, hey, we want you. Can you come out next week? And I was like, what? And all my friends were like, do it. And I was like, I think this is so stupid. I don't want to do it. This is not aligned in my path. And I ended up doing it because I was like, whatever, you only get this chance once. The only reason I'm doing it is because there are things that I want to talk about. And I was like, the reason I enjoy being perceived on social media or in modeling or acting or whatever is because I don't see a lot of Middle Eastern people, especially queer ones and weird ones, especially non-binary ones, you know? And because I have so many intersectionalities, I know that a lot of different people from different spaces and places can find some type of relation in me and like whatever, their experience is reflected in one way or another. And so I was like, it's important for me. This is important for me. And also not only important for me, but like child me. So I did it. And it was really hard and really weird and confusing and triggering, but also very fun. And it's not what people expect it to be like. And it's really not scripted at all. Well, a little bit, but mostly not. It's very much, mostly how I think reality TV works is that they psychoanalyze you and then they put you in positions to get a specific reaction from the kind of person they have analyzed you to be, essentially.
Well, because I'm interested in this also because my husband and I are forever arguing how much of a particular reality show is scripted or not.
Yeah. I will say that, for example, on The Real World, right? They had me like, because I have a lot of like body image issues, especially at the time. And you know, if people have seen the show, they seem like all the girls in the house were obsessed with being so skinny, but also like the two girls that were obsessed with being so skinny are also like white women in like very preppy type of spaces. So I was like, I'm like so fat and hairy and weird, and these girls think they're so ugly, so they must think I'm so ugly, you know?
Yeah.
I felt very insecure there, and the producers were like, we want you to go and like talk to children about like confidence and body image because you're a model. And I was like, I don't really want to do that. And then they like found like 4 organizations, and they reached out to one, and they're like, Yasmin, if you're not going to get a job, then you have to do something because you can't just be sitting around the house all day, and we need to make like a storyline for you. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll just go with these people. Like, I chose the people that I wanted their stories to be highlighted. I really wasn't trying to do it like for me. I was like, if I'm going to be in that space, I want other people to have a chance to like for their voices to be put on a platform. So I went, and it was all these different people with body image things, and like they were like plus size, and they were talking about their experience with different eating things and confidence and self-esteem and trauma in life. And it was really amazing. So many people had so many different special experiences. But again, I didn't choose exactly to be doing. Like, if I had a choice, that's not exactly what I would have been like. I want to go and talk with plus size people because I'm not a plus size person, actually. So it was really weird that they put me in the space with plus size people.
I can hear whatever that is in the background.
Yeah, I know. It's so annoying. Oh my God, because they just out of nowhere started doing construction next door.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Hold on 1 second. Let me see if I can move. Hear me here?
Yeah.
Like, is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
It actually sounds a lot closer and warmer.
Okay, good. Wait.
Oh, stop it, neighbors. Yeah. It's all right.
Let me go ask them to stop.
Okay.
Hey, babe, I'm over. I'm starting recording in a half hour. That's okay?
I'm recording right now. Love you too. You're hilarious. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Sorry, my partner has a podcast right after we're finished with ours.
Oh my goodness. Wait, is she doing it or is she on an interview?
She is a host of a podcast about mental health for the Jewish board.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's it called?
So, I don't know. Oh, wait, hold on. New York State of Mind. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Oh, New York State of Mindfulness. Whatever. I'll send you the link later. I never listened to it.
Yeah, that's like very similar to my husband who doesn't listen to my podcast either. So joke's on him because I can say whatever I want.
Hell yeah. Oh my gosh.
But thank you for getting your neighbors to stop hammering. That was really cool.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's a construction because they're turning the next door place into Airbnb or whatever.
Okay.
So I had to be like, sir, I'm working. Please stop. And they were chill. They're like, no problem. So very good.
Very good. So where were we? We were somewhere in the middle of real world and reality TV.
Yeah. Oh, we were talking about real world things being scripted.
Yes.
So yes, things are put in place to kind of make it scripted, but it's not all scripted. Like, people's reactions are obviously not scripted. They just put you in very pressurized positions and only give you a few options. And you choose how you get to navigate through those options, you know?
Yeah. So today, as I was reading about it, because I wanted to see if I could find out anything, get a little more insight into you. And I read somebody's description, and they were talking about, various cast members. And then they're like, and then they have a pansexual Trump supporter. And I was like, oh my God, please don't let that be Yasmin, please.
No, oh my God.
It's not you.
So it was not me. It was actually really like my best friend from the show, actually, though. Dondre, who I wasn't expecting to be a Trump supporter or queer,
Right.
but he's not really. He is amazing and smart and curious and knows how to get what he wants.
Okay.
I think his views are always changing.
All right. You don't know. I didn't mean to put you on the spot to like defend him. I was just really glad that it wasn't you.
No, it's not me. And honestly, I fought with him a lot initially, but he's a Libra. He's a performer. So
yes,
that's what it really is.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So because you do seem incredibly comfortable in your own skin, and I don't know if that is something that you project and don't feel, or you project and you sometimes feel, or if you just walk around with that sense now. What's your relationship to your confidence?
You know what? It's constantly changing. And I will say, like, when I'm in New York more and I'm trying to be more social or like socially relevant, I feel more insecure because I have a hard time not comparing myself to other people. But over the pandemic specifically, I have found so much inner peace and grounding. And I'm so grateful that I have been able to kind of remove myself from spaces that made me feel insecure. But also, I think my relationship with social media has changed a lot. I used to put myself on there to be a lot more vulnerable and share my opinion a lot more. And I realized maybe that's not so important. And it's more important to live in my present life. I've really been able to do that. And that's a huge part of my confidence, to be honest, is like removing myself from. I'm on social media, what people would think a lot now, but I used to be on there all the time, like literally addicted so much. And like all of my value I had about myself was from social media. And now I've been able to live in my life and try so many different things that have nothing to do with social media. And that's genuinely a big part of my confidence.
It sounds like the locus of your confidence is internal, and that really makes a difference.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense.
I will say I experience up and down like body dysmorphia, especially when it comes to more gender things. But also those are new things I've been exploring more as I have been let myself to be more alone. But those are not negative things. Those are just new curious finds as I'm growing into the person that I am.
Right. We haven't even talked about it, but you've recently posted online that you have decided that you want to be referred to as they. And I don't remember if you said as she and they or just they.
Yeah, I said she, they. It's because I do identify with she and they, but a lot of people will just only use she if I say she and they. Like it's easier for people to use she because of how I present. But I really do like a nice balance of both.
Okay. It's kind of amazing the last series of photos with the transformation from like, to me, it was very much like a Xanadu look, like Olivia Newton-John with.
Yeah, actually, yes.
And then you with the like, I don't know if it was a handlebar mustache, but it was a mustache, and then like halfway, like it was such a cute. And I mean that in the best possible way, not in a patronizing way, the sort of expression of the different genders and different mixes and that confusion and that balance.
That was a really fun photo shoot because as a model, I keep getting like things that are like pretty underwear girl or whatever the hell. And like, that's, cool, pay me. But also like, I'm truly an artist. Like I have always been an artist since I have been born. And so creating things that are weird and cool and quirky and like really just exploring different parts of life is so much more fulfilling to me. So that was really cool. Also because I'm like obsessed with the filter that gives me a beard. And also I'm like, wow, my brother is so hot and handsome. And sometimes I wish I could look like my brother. And so this photo shoot made me feel very affirmed in parts of myself and being able to show up that way, because for a lot of people, the idea of transitioning or taking hormones or doing things like binding is not that like an instantaneous choice.
Mm-hmm.
Those things are also a different kind of commitment to a different part of yourself. So even having the opportunity to almost like get the chance to present that way that I would really like to at times temporarily was like made me feel so hot and so handsome. And I tapped into a part of myself that is very much there, but only people in my very, very private life get to see me as.
Yeah, it's so, I mean, it's all drag, right? Everything we put on,
Yes.
the way that every single person presents themselves is drag. And it's
Every single morning.
fun to be able to play with that. I mean, we got, so I'm going to be Medusa for Halloween this year.
I love Medusa.
And I was talking to my husband and he was like, what should I be? What should I be? And I was like, you should be some other Greek god. So he thought like he would just do a play on the words like Greek god. And he got this like handlebar mustache. And my husband is like, he doesn't listen to this show, right? So he's like, he's very effeminate in ways that people can easily think that he's gay. Which he happens to not be, but he's so comfortable and he does such a good impersonation. So he was going to be like a quote unquote Greek god, but as in some like hot gay stud, and I was going to be Medusa.
No, that's amazing. That's so hot and sexy, and that's so fun.
My mom like, why was I saying this? My point was like just getting the mustache was like a different character for him. So yeah, I can imagine.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, wearing that mustache also, I was like, wow, I'm wearing a mustache and a bikini top at the same time. Fun. Or even wearing like the wig, like the different kind of wigs was also so cool. And if you see on my social media, I'm always changing my hair like literally every week.
Yes.
Like literally every week. And it's because like there's so many personalities.
And I know we have to go soon because I know that your microphone and recording space is needed. But I did want to ask you, I read some of the essays that you wrote. And in one of the essays, you mentioned that living in the United States comes with a sort of sense of guilt that you were asking yourself, could I have been this radical back in Armenia or Syria? And I thought, I really get this question. It was deep. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think, okay, first of all, Armenian people have genocide. Syrian people just recently experienced huge also genocide, essentially, and displacement on both ends. And I talk to my family members or hear stories from various family members or, you know, even the stories that my grandmother tells me and things like that, or even my mother's experiences in her youth. And I think, wow, I'm so incredibly privileged to be living the life I live and get to be myself and feel safe most of the time existing in the world that I do, and also feeling very against and anti living in the world that I do, because I see that it's also not beneficial for many, many aspects of, I think, both cultures. For example, I feel like when living in such a modern westernized society, you lose a lot of like traditional family values. And I have a lot of guilt also, for example, my cousins who are, you know, Syrian refugees in refugee camp, young girls that then have to marry other relatives, and that's just what it is. And they want to go to college. They're like, Yasmin, I want to go to college. I want to go to America with you. They're not even allowed to leave the country of Jordan. They can't go back to Syria, and they can't go to any other country in the world. And then they don't have access to education and this and that. And I'm like, wow, you know, I am always talking about liberation and self-expression of women and people, but like, how much of that is even actually possible if in this modern day of 2021, almost 2022, and still people do not have access to those things. And I also have a lot of guilt about not having as much insight into either of those cultures, especially like ancestrally, because I am now very much considered to be an American person and being raised in the US. I feel like there's so much I wish to learn and understand about both sides of my family's history. And no, of course, I don't want to experience like war, but there's so many intricacies there that I was like, wow, I do want to know more about both sides of myself. And there's a lot of things I will never learn or know.
Right. I mean, I think that's true for everyone. But I also think when you pose the question, and I've thought of things like that before, but it really kind of struck me how privileged we are. As imperfect as the US is, we really do have a lot of freedom to be who we are. It's not absolute. Not everyone has the same amount of freedom, but it's here. We do get to express ourselves far more than we would in other places in the world. And, I understand the feeling of guilt, but I think that it also comes with the responsibility of doing what you're doing, being yourself, being open about who you are. And it's not, you're different, and it's not always easy to be different, but you standing in that space and being at times or at the same time vulnerable and strong in that is a beautiful example of why we all yearn to be free and why we fight for these freedoms and fight for people to have the right to be themselves. It would be a disservice if you were here and not open about who you were.
Totally. And I think the meaning of my life or my work or just my existence is like, I really, really believe that all people deserve liberation and liberation in self-expression. And that has been something that has been a constant thing I've been finding myself coming back to.
In that, we are soul sisters.
Yes.
It's been so great talking to you. Thank you so much for agreeing to be interviewed. I love talking to you, and I know that I could talk to you for a really long time.
Yeah, you too. I'm really grateful. And I also just want people to know that you also have Armenian and Syrian ancestry, which is very unique and has been really affirming for me talking to you as well.
Aww. Do you have a couple more minutes? We have 5 fun questions that we like to wrap up every show with. Totally. Okay. They're easy, I promise. What is your favorite Armenian food?
Oh, basturma.
You said that with the Russian accent. I love it. Okay, so the next question is, do you understand both Western and Eastern? Do you understand either?
Oh, what, Armenian?
Yeah.
Language? No.
Nothing. Okay.
I understand things that old ladies say to me at the church.
What is the most American thing about you?
That I love to have my nipples out all the time.
What? I'm sorry. How is that American?
I don't know. I really love to be naked, and I think that I should be naked everywhere.
Okay. I didn't realize that was an American trait, but
How about also I love burping? Is that more American? I love burping.
I have literally never had that answer before, so congratulations. Do you have a favorite Armenian celebrity?
No, just, the typical Cher.
Yeah. Number 1 answer on the show. And lastly, and most importantly to me, do you know how to read Armenian coffee cups?
No, I do not.
Oh. Yeah. Do you drink Armenian coffee?
I do drink Armenian coffee. I love to drink Armenian coffee and Arabic coffee. And also, though, sometimes I will Google coffee cups and try to depict it myself for practice, but I don't think it's accurate.
Dude. Okay, so every Monday when we're in season, we put up pictures of Armenian coffee cups from our listeners or from people that we've interviewed. Hint, hint. And we ask all of our followers to say a little something and try to interpret it. So if you can get a hold of some Arabic coffee or Armenian coffee, would you consider doing that for us?
Absolutely, yes. I could probably do it this week when I go to the Turkish restaurant down the street that does have the coffee that I like. I can take a picture.
There's a Turkish restaurant in Playa del Carmen?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that come here from other places and try to make their culture be here.
Wow. Yeah. Sounds cool.
It is cool, except when Canadians and Americans come here and be like, hamburgers, fries, and beer over and over everywhere. And like, just don't do that here.
Can I have some queso?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Very much so.
Oh my God. It's been a pleasure.
You too.
Thank you. You can reach Yasmin on their website at www.yasminalmo.com and on Instagram at yasa.
Yes, that's me.
That is so fun to say.
Yeah, it's actually my childhood nickname instead of Yasmin. My grandma would always call me Yasio.
That's really cute.
Yes.
As always, all their info will be in the show notes for this episode. I'd like to say a special thank you to all of our patrons. Your support is the backbone of this podcast, and I will never be able to thank you enough. I truly, truly love and appreciate you. Whether you're a patron or not, if you enjoy the conversations we bring you, please share our podcasts on your social media so all the people you love can listen too. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, remember that you are always more than enough.